In a moment it will achieve a great merit by beating a demon to death and banishing all perversity. Your empire will soon be returned to you." The king dared not disobey. Pulling up his robe to wipe away the tears, he followed them resolutely up to the Hall of Golden Chimes. The rows of civil and military officials, some 400 of them, all stood there with great sobriety and noble looks. Pilgrim led the Tang monk up to the white jade steps. He then stood still and remained erect. All those officials beneath the steps became terrified, saying, "This monk is most foolish and base. When he sees our king, why does he not prostrate himself, nor does he express his praise? He does not even give a bow. How audacious and rude." Before they even finished speaking, the demon king asked, "Where did this monk come from?" Pilgrim replied boldly, "I am from the great Tang nation in the land of the East, in the South Jambu Vipa continent, someone sent by imperial decree to go seek the living Buddha in the great Thunderclap Monastery of India in the Western Territories for true scriptures. Having reached this region, I do not want to pass through it without having our travel rescript certified." When the demon king heard what he said, he became angry, saying, "So what if you are from the land of the East? We are not paying tribute in your court, nor have we any intercourse with your nation. How dare you neglect your etiquette and not bow to us?" Laughing, Pilgrim said, "Our celestial court in the land of the East was established in antiquity, and ours had been called the superior state for a long time. Yours is only a state of the hinterlands in an inferior region. Haven't you heard of the ancient saying? The king of the superior state is father and ruler. The king of the inferior state is son and subject. You haven't even received me properly, and you dare chide me for not bowing to you." Infuriated, the demon king shouted to the civil and military officials, "Seize this wild monk." When he said, "Seize," all the officials surged forward. Pointing immediately with his finger, Pilgrim cried, "Cease." That, you see, was the magic of immobilization, which made the various officials unable to move at all. Truly, the captains before the steps looked like idols of wood, and marshals in the palace resembled men of clay. When the demon king saw how Pilgrim had rendered immobile all the officials, he leapt up from the dragon couch and was about to seize Pilgrim himself. Secretly pleased, the Monkey King thought, "Good. Exactly what Old Monkey wanted. The moment you come near, your head, even if it's made of raw iron, is going to have a gaping hole when my rod finds it." He was about to strike, when suddenly a saving star appeared from one side. Who was it, you ask? It was none other than the prince of the Black Rooster Kingdom. Dashing up to tug at the demon king's garment, the prince knelt before him and said, "Let the anger of Father King subside." "What do you want to say, my child?" asked the monster spirit. "Let me report this to Father King," said the prince. 3 years ago, I heard already that there was a sage monk, sent by the throne of the Tang in the land of the East, to seek scriptures from Buddha in the Western heaven, but I did not expect that he would arrive this day. The honored nature of Father King is powerful and ferocious, I know. But if you seize this monk and have him executed, the great Tang could be greatly angered if ever they should learn of this one day. Remember that Li Shuminghu, since he established his throne, did succeed in uniting his empire. Still not content, he went on various expeditions of conquest to foreign lands. If he discovers that our king has murdered the sage monk, his bond brother, he will most certainly call up troops and horses to war with us. When we realize then how small is our army and how weak our generals are, it will be too late for regrets. Let the Father King approve the memorial of his son. Let him make a thorough investigation of the background of these 4 monks. We must first establish why they would not pay homage to the throne before we convict them. This entire speech, you see, was motivated by the prince's caution, who feared that the Tang monk might be hurt, and that was why he deliberately stopped the demon. The prince, of course, did not know that Pilgrim was about to strike. Consenting indeed to the words of the prince, The Demon King stood before the dragon couch and loudly asked, "When did this monk leave the land of the East? For what reason did the Tang Emperor ask you to seek scriptures?" Again Pilgrim replied boldly, "My master is the bond brother of the Tang Emperor, and his honorific is Tripitaka. There is a prime minister before the Tang throne, whose name is Wei Zheng, and who has by the decree of heaven beheaded an old dragon of the Jing River. Because of this, the great Tang Emperor also had to tour the region of darkness in his dream, and after he was revived, he opened wide the plot of truth, by giving a grand mass of land and water to redeem the wronged souls and damned spirits. As my master recited and performed the sutras to magnify the power of compassion, the Bodhisattva Guanxuyin of South Sea revealed to him suddenly that he should journey to the west. Making a grand promise, my master accepted the commission freely and gladly to serve his nation, and that was when the emperor bestowed on him the rescript. On the third day before the 15th, during the 9th month of the 13th year, in the Jingguan period of the Great Tang, he left the land of the East. When he reached the mountain of two frontiers, he accepted me as his disciple. My surname is Sun, and my name is Wukong Pilgrim. Next, we arrived at the Gao family village of the Coco Kingdom, where my master made his second disciple. His surname is Zhu, and his name is Wu Neng 8 Rules. At the flowing sand river, the third disciple joined the fold. His surname is Sha, and his name is Wu Jing Monk. The day before yesterday, at the Precious Grove Monastery built by Imperial Command, we newly acquired a mendicant worker, who now helps us with pawing the luggage. After the Demon King heard this speech, he found it difficult to turn up an excuse for examining the Tang monk further, and it was even more difficult for him to try to overwhelm Pilgrim with deceptive interrogation. Glowering, he said, "You, monk. When you first left the land of the East, you were all by yourself, but then you accepted all these 4 persons into your company. Those 3 monks may be all right, but this worker looks most suspicious. This mendicant must have been kidnapped from somewhere. What is his name? Does he have a certificate of ordination? Bring him up here and let him make a deposition." Trembling all over, the king said, "O master, how shall I make this deposition?" Giving him a pinch, Pilgrim said, "Don't be afraid. Let me do it for you, dear great sage." He strode forward and said to the fiend in a loud voice, "Your Majesty, this old worker is not only dumb, but he is also somewhat deaf. We took him on because he knew the way to the Western Heaven, having gone there himself in his younger days. I know everything about him, his background, his origin, his rise and fall. I beg your Majesty's pardon, but let me make the deposition for him." "Do it quickly and truthfully," said the Demon King, "lest he be convicted of a serious offense." Pilgrim said, "Of this deposition the mendicant's quite old. Deaf, dumb, and dim-witted, he's also poor. A man whose native home was in this place. He met defeat and ruin 5 years ago, with no rain from the sky. Folks turned shriveled and dry. King and subjects all fasted and abstained. They bathed and burned incense to pray to heaven. But no cloud was seen for 10,000 miles, while people starved as though hung upside down. There came from Zhongnan a complete truth fiend, who called up wind and rain to show his power, and then took in secret the king's own life. The victim was pushed down a garden well. The dragon seat was taken unknown to man. Luckily I came. My merit was great. No snag it was to bring life back from death. Willing to submit as a mendicant, he would follow the monk to face the west. That specious king is a Taoist in fact. This worker is in truth the rightful king." When that Demon King on the Hall of Golden Chimes heard this speech, he became so frightened that his heart pounded like the feet of a young deer and his face was flushed with red clouds. He wanted to run away at once, but he did not even have a weapon in his hands. Turning around, he saw one of the captains of palace guards, who had a scimitar buckled to his waist and who had been rendered a dumb and stupid person standing there by Pilgrim's magic of immobilization. Dashing up to him, The Demon King took this scimitar and then immediately mounted the clouds to escape in the air. Sha Monk and Zhu 8 Rules were so annoyed by this turn of events that they screamed at Pilgrim. "You impatient ape! Why did you have to say all those things at once? You could have tricked him into staying if you had used a slower approach. Now that he has mounted the clouds and escaped, where would you go to search for him? Don't scream madly like that, brothers," said Pilgrim with laughter. "Let me ask the prince to come out and bow to his father, and the queen to greet her husband first. Let me then recite another spell to release those ministers from my magic so that they can learn the truth about what has happened and pay homage to the real king. Then I can go look for him. Dear great sage." After he had disposed of everything he said he would do, he told 8 Rules and Sha Monk, "Take care to guard ruler and subjects, father and son, husband and wife, and our master. I'm off." Hardly had he finished speaking before he was completely out of sight. Rising straight up to the clouds of the ninefold heaven, Pilgrim opened wide his eyes to stare all around. The Demon King, having escaped with his life, was fleeing toward the northeast.